So I'm Joost van Oorschot. I'm from the Netherlands originally. I live in Luxembourg now already more than 4 years. So I've lived in about 12 countries around the world. So South Africa, Australia, Turkey, Hungary. So I grew up very international. I went always to international schools as well. And so I'm English and Dutch I'm fluent. My French is horrible, so is my German and Luxembourgish, but I try. Yes, and I have a background in economics and business economics originally, but always was very passionate about space and space technology, so decided to also get a degree in space studies. Yes, and I'm a very avid scuba diver, so I'm also a scuba diving instructor. So yeah, I still have a little bit the hair from these days, let's say. Yes, whenever I can, I like to go diving and see an alien world that we have here on Earth. And this is also a little bit part of who I am, in that I like to explore, so to say. And yeah, I've been an entrepreneur now for 10 years almost. It's been a long journey, a lot of learnings along the way, and a great adventure, and I wouldn't do anything else than what I do. So Maana Electric is a deep tech company. We focus primarily on the energy industry, so energy generation, energy storage, and we also are quite deeply rooted in the space industry. So we also have quite some focus on the space industry. And Maana Electric, basically, we have developed, where we are world leader, I would say, is in situ resource utilization, which is a term not many people know, but it basically describes using the resources you have locally available to produce high value goods. And this is a technology originally developed for the space industry, and we apply this technology both here on Earth and in space, primarily through our main product, the TerraBox, which is a completely mobile factory, which can produce solar panels from desert sand and electricity. So basically, the whole production process from start to finish for solar panels, we are able to do in about 7 shipping containers, and we produce about 1 megawatt of solar panels with that, with our current prototype system. I will be honest with you, I have about 10 new business ideas every day. Ideas are easy. I think what's more complicated is execution. And also it's complicated to be sure that you have a good idea, you know. Not every idea is necessarily a good idea. So my rule is always, if I have an idea that interests me or that is like intriguing, let's say, I usually don't spend any money on it. That's the most important rule. Don't spend any money on it. Put a limit of how much time you spend on exploring this idea. And the most important thing is first to discover if there's actually a problem you are solving, or actually a business there, you know, if there's a market for it, if the product makes sense in the market. The most important thing is to really talk to customers and be sure that whatever you have in mind can make sense for the customers, because maybe through those conversations with customers you will discover that the original idea is maybe not so good, but you can, or is not exactly what the customer is looking for, but with time you can pivot, as it's typically called, to change your idea. And in those early phases it's very easy to do, you know, because you haven't spent any money on it, it's just an idea. And then when you have a little bit that understanding that yes, there is really something there, that's when maybe it's worthwhile to spend a very, very small amount of money. I think no more than 200 euros to explore a little bit further, let's say. Maybe create a website, do some more things, but it's the most important thing to start, because I see too many entrepreneurs that come to me and they've spent 50,000 euros on technology, but they've never really checked if that technology is relevant, for example. Yeah, look, as I said, first you have to explore if there is really a business there, if there are customers, if, you know, the most important thing to figure out is the market, the customers. Like, for example, for my business, it's the first thing we did, very first thing, because it doesn't cost you anything, you know. And only after that do you develop the technology, because the technology is the expensive part, you know. So once you have the idea, figured out that, okay, there is a market, there's a potential business, the ideal thing is that you already have some customer commitments. It's difficult for new entrepreneurs, but for example, a non-binding letter of intent from a customer, it sounds very silly, but it will go a very, very long way in all parts of your business. So I think when we started, we had 3-4 customers already showing interest, who had signed letters that they were interested. And that's really critical, because then you know that you are developing for someone, and you can also talk with those customers or potential customers. Hey, does this product really make sense with your need? Because if you don't have that connection, you go on this path when in reality the customer is actually wanting you to go this path. And I think it's also important to have a very open mind and be flexible according to what the customer wants, because if you don't have that and you are too stubborn, let's say, you end up developing something that doesn't make sense. So, okay, once you have that figured out, then of course you have to find the team. In my opinion, I've always created a company with other people, because when you are alone, it's too easy to make the mistake of believing too much in yourself, you know, to believe too much in your idea, to believe too much that you know it all. And when you have some other people to talk to, it makes a big difference. Plus you can bring in other expertises. And yes, once you have that figured out, then maybe you can start spending a little bit of time on the actual technology, if it's a technology company that you are developing. Well, once again, the best thing is to not have any investors at all and have other sources of money come in. So we only brought in the first investors this year. We've been 4 years old. We were already 40 employees. So all of our money has primarily come from customers. And that is the ideal approach, really. Because if you have something that's so interesting, or that people are willing to support the development of your technology because it's interesting enough, that's the best. Because once you start bringing investors on board, you know, you lose a little bit of your company. And the earlier you start bringing investors on board, the more you will lose your company in the long run. So what is quite nice about our business is that once we brought investors on board, the company was already quite developed, which means we were able to get a higher valuation, and the ownership for the most part has stayed within the founders and employees of the company. And I think that is not only good for, of course, the founders and employees, but it's also good for the business itself, because you actually know what's going on a day-to-day basis, while an investor can bring a lot to a business, but they are not there every day to see what the business needs. And if you talk to most good investors, they will also always say that they prefer companies where founders or employees have a large stake in the business. Yeah, I think the most important or the most difficult part, in my opinion, is HR, and making sure that with the growth of the team, people are happy, and that's never easy. Yeah, and besides that, of course, funding, but funding is just a means to an end, you know. Funding should not be your end-all be-all. Of course, you need funding to achieve scale, but it's not the most critical. The most critical is having all the tools, and that's primarily people and equipment to be able to achieve what you have to do, and a good preparation. So that's what we do now, for example, really making sure we are prepared for the next stage. And for me, we have gone through about 2 scaling cycles, and then it's like this, and then you have to level out a little bit because you grow so quickly that you have to figure out how to operate at that level, and then you take the next step. Because if you were to go from, we are now 50 people, which was a big step, to be honest, and comes with a lot more issues on the administrative and HR side. But if you now go to 200, it's a smaller step than going from 5 to 50, if you know what I mean. If you have a good understanding of the market, you know where to find your customers. You have to be targeted on certain markets. For example, for us, our target market is Middle East and North Africa. So that's where we focus on getting customers. But actually, a large portion of our customers today also somehow find us and are from outside of our area of focus. But you have to focus on a certain market, because otherwise you're doing everything everywhere and all of the customers have a different expectation. So no, we focus on Middle East, North Africa for now. We mainly focus on large-scale project developers, solar project developers. Of course, we like also talking with other players in the solar project development space, but those are the customers that really fit with the technology that we have. I think the biggest advice I always tell because I get a lot of young entrepreneurs or people who have come to me, I have an idea, how do you do it? Just start doing it and be really committed to it. And in my opinion, you should not be in it for the money, because if you are in it for the money, you will be disappointed. You have to be willing to, at least for the beginning, pay yourself the lowest salary, take the sacrifices, and you really have to be committed. I think too many people have this illusion that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos got to where they are, poof. No, a lot of years of very hard work. And it's kind of, it comes with sacrifice. So I think the most important thing is really make sure that it's really for you, because you will have 100 times that you will want to quit. Everyone has this, and if you are not motivated enough, you will quit, or you will spend a lot of money on something if you are too disillusional, let's say. If you are too fascinated by your own idea. I've seen some entrepreneurs that really did not do the market research and spent like 100,000 euros of their savings and ended up broke, and especially if you have a family, if you have a mortgage, don't do that, Don't take big risks until you know that your concept works, and then take calculated risks.